Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
Yo, it's your boy, the odd guy himself, Malik King Scott.
Hi, I'm Charlie Edwards.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 166 of the BoxHard Podcast. I am your host, Mr. Joey Coastman. I'm joined as always by the ever-elusive, the very festive feeling Mr. Ayaz Sumra. Ayaz, how you doing?
I'm good, Joey. Yourself?
Very good, my friend, very good. One or two details I just want to give out quickly before we get on to part one and we start with the review part. I just want to say that this week's show will be the final podcast before the Christmas special. The Christmas special will be brought to you on the 27th of December. I know it's a little bit... probably a little bit late, but you know, we do the podcast every Thursday. It goes out every Thursday, and we had two options: either the 20th, which is obviously this week, or we could do the 27th. And I think the 27th probably fits the best because you know, there's so much this week as it is to review and preview, and it would have just been too crammed in. I'm trying to lock down one or two big interviews as well on the Christmas special show, so that one will be out on the 27th. If you've got anything that you want to, you know, say or get involved in, then you can. Please tweet us. I mean, we will put out some tweets about this, but please do try and send in your pound for pound lists, your knockout of the year, your fighter of the year, perhaps your fight of the year, anything at all that you want, you know, to be mentioned or talked about on next week's show, the Christmas special. Then please send those in to @BoxHard Podcast on Twitter. And yeah, the part one on next week's show, the part one will be a review of the Frampton and Warrington card, along with the Whyte and Chisora card, and also the Charlo card. We'll be doing that in the review part of the show, but the preview part will be non-existent. There will be no preview part. It will just be fun stuff like knockout of the year and fighter of the year, like I say. So get involved in that if you wish. Let's dive into this week's show, though. Let's start with the review part. We're going to start at the American Bank Center in Corpus Christi, Texas, USA. We're going to start here with the undercard. Friend of the show, he was on last week, Jamel Herring. He took on Adilson Dos Santos, former opponent of Kid Galahad. Now, it was a fight where it wasn't televised in the UK, unfortunately. I think it was televised in the States only, so unfortunately I missed it. Apparently, Jamel Herring didn't look all that good. I think he got hit quite a few times from what I've heard, but he was able to knock his man down in the first round, which is pretty impressive, and also the second round. But Adilson Dos Santos, the tough Brazilian, did get back up to his feet on both occasions and was able to see out the 8 rounds. So a wide unanimous decision there in favour of Jamel Herring. Now 19-2, he's looking at a world title shot early next year against Masayuki Ito. He made that clear on our show last week. Also on the bill, Michaela Meyer picked up win number 9, a defence of her NABF female super featherweight title against Calista Silgado, who's now 17-11 with 3 draws. That was a unanimous decision over 8 2-minute rounds. Also on the bill, we saw Arnold Barboza Jr. pick up win number 20, a perfect 20-0 resume. It was for the vacant NABF junior super lightweight title. Manuel Lopez was in the other corner. There's been many Manuel Lopez's in boxing, but this one is now, I should say, 14-3 with 1 draw. Also on the bill, fan favourite Joshua Greer Jr., the guy that likes to get out a pillow to let his man know that he's going to put you to sleep. He brought a lovely red silky pillow along with him on fight week. It was for the vacant WBC Continental Americas bantamweight title. He took on Daniel Lozano, who was 15-5. He actually made Lozano retire on his stall after 7 rounds. He didn't want to come out for round 8 of a scheduled 10. So another stoppage win there for Joshua Greer Jr., another man that's knocking on the door really for a world title shot soon. His record 19-1 with 1 draw. But the main event over here, Gilberto Ramirez, he moved to 39-0, a majority decision over 12 rounds against Jesse Hart. It was the rematch. The first fight was pretty close. The knockdown pretty much cost Jesse Hart the fight the first time round, but this time round it was another close fight. These guys are very competitive when they fight. It was for the WBO World Super Middleweight title. Now, the fight, it was a good fight once again. The first 2 rounds, I think both men kind of pushed each other back. Both men also held centre of the ring. The best shot of the first round was actually by Ramirez. I think it was a left hook. In the second round, the best punch was Hart's right uppercut. I started scoring the bout properly, though, from round 3. I think the commentators had the first 2 rounds 1 apiece, so I just kind of rolled with that. The third round was a close round. I think both men had their moments. If I really had to edge it to someone, it would probably be Ramirez. A criticism of Hart is that he throws his shots really wide and he leaves himself open to be countered all the time, really. Someone with good timing will really cause him trouble, I believe. In the fourth round, I gave that round to Ramirez once again. He didn't land any eye-catching headshots, but his body work was really, really good. I've always thought that Hart was the bigger puncher of the two, but some of the Ramirez attacks, those hooks to the body and stuff like that, they looked completely damaging. They really did. 3-1 I had it to Gilberto Ramirez. Going into the fifth round, I actually gave that one to Hart. When Hart punched with Ramirez, he was really having success. The uppercut was working time and time again for Hart. It was weird though, because when Hart gets hit, I think he makes it look a lot worse than what it really is. And one thing that Jesse did that was good in that round was when Ramirez would throw a combination, he'd sometimes just take a step to the side and change the angle and throw a little 1-2 combination himself. It was very clever and nice work from Jesse Hart. I also noticed that Hart would quite often initiate a clinch, despite not really appearing fatigued in that fifth round. In the sixth round, it was a hard to split round, really. If I had to edge it, I'd probably give it to Hart. The seventh round I gave to Hart once again. The eighth round I gave to Hart once again, although it was a very messy round. The ninth round wasn't pretty either. There was lots and lots of leaning from Hart. He was really leaning on Ramirez. He didn't do too much. He was fighting in bursts, and to be honest, the best 3 punches of the round all came from Hart, but I did think that Ramirez probably did enough to win the round. It was a close round though. My scorecard felt like it was going to be a bit messy, really. During the fight, apparently Ramirez had an issue with his left elbow, which made it very difficult for him to throw his left hand, and any punch he did throw didn't have too much authority behind it. I'm not quite sure if there's been an official confirmation of that, but the 10th round was another not so pretty round. I think that probably Hart did enough just about to win it. It was very, very difficult to score. Round 11, once again, Hart was smothering Ramirez. There was a nice exchange to end the round, but I felt Hart had the better success throughout the round for me. So on my very questionable scorecard, I actually had it 7-4 to Hart going into the final round. At that point, I was quite intrigued to know what the judges and perhaps other boxing fans had scored it after 11 rounds. Hart looked exhausted in that final round, the 12th round, and Ramirez basically had to go for broke for me. Hart had no defense. Ramirez was battering Hart. Hart wasn't moving. Hart wasn't holding. He looked out on his feet. He finally managed to hold for a little bit, and then he recovered and he got off with his own attack. It was a crazy final round. Hart actually finished the stronger, but he had to dig so deep. He really fought with the worst tactics imaginable in that final round, and for me, I had to give it to Ramirez in that round. It was actually shaping up for a 10-8 round. It was so one-sided before Hart went on the attack and finished strong. Now, it was a very close fight. There were 2 rounds I didn't score, which was obviously the first and second, and I gave it 1 apiece because I went with what the commentary team said. And there was 1 round I couldn't really split the pair during the fight, so I think I actually, the one that I couldn't split, I think I said I gave it to Ramirez. It was very close, but I gave it to Ramirez. So yeah, I'm not sure I'd say it was a robbery, but for me, the way I had it on my questionable scorecard was 7-5 in favour of Jesse Hart. And then obviously he ended up losing a majority decision. I'm not quite sure what else he had to do. I think he was absolutely gutted. But like I say, it was a close fight. I had it to Hart by 2 points, so obviously, that's 7 rounds to 5. If I went the other way on 1 round, then it's a draw. So it was a close fight. I don't think you can say robbery, but very, very unfortunate for Jesse Hart. I wanted him to win the fight. And talking of the predictions, I think we all predicted on that fight there. Even though I wanted him to win, I did go with the smart money, which was a Ramirez points win. That is what happened. As you went with Ramirez to win by knockout, so did the listeners. So I gain a point there, and you both lose out. It's becoming quite a fantastic little run for me now. Moving out now to the Coca-Cola Coliseum, real cool venue here in Toronto, Canada. Just one fight really to mention over here, or two fights actually. We saw the return of Dillian Whyte. His record now 31-2 with one draw. It was a TKO in the very first round against Noe Nunes, who's now 18-7 with two draws. No real big thing to mention about that fight. I mean, he was always expected to win that, but Jean is a good fighter. I mean, his two losses came to Crawford and Lamont Peterson, I believe. So no shame in losing to those guys. I think one of the fights was pretty close. I don't think it was the Crawford fight, but yeah, he's been very inactive lately. I'm not quite sure why. Moving up the bill once again, we saw Sammy Vargas, the former opponent of Amir Khan. Yes, he was out again here very soon after that Khan fight. It was for the NABA welterweight title. He actually took on Gabriel Pereiro, who was unbeaten, 27-0, and Sammy Vargas pulled off the win unanimously over 10 rounds. That was his 30th win also, so all the very best to him. 30-4 with two draws. Moving out now to Germany, we saw Karo Murat, 32-3 with one draw, former opponent of Hopkins, former opponent of Nathan Cleverly. He put his IBO World Light Heavyweight title on the line against Sven Forlin, who had a record of 14-1. For me, I thought Karo Murat would probably get a win here, because I've never heard of this guy here, Forlin. Obviously, Murat's fought at the higher level, but interestingly enough, Murat actually got upset on the cards, 115-110 twice and 116-109. So quite strange scores there, but a unanimous decision for Sven Forlin. He's dethroned Karo Murat, who I think is certainly on the slide. I would have liked to see him take on someone like an Anthony Yarde, actually, but it looks like that fight won't be too interesting now if he's losing to this guy here. Also on that undercard, we saw Jürgen Bremer pick up win number 50. It was a TKO in the 5th round against Pablo Nieves, who now has a record of 33-17 with one draw. A nice, easy way to pick up win number 50. And also on the bill, Christian Hammer, former opponent of Tyson Fury and David Price, amongst others, 23-5, now 24-5. It was for the vacant WBO European heavyweight title. In the other corner was the German undefeated heavyweight prospect Michael Wallisch. His record was 19-0. It was a bit of a gut check, really. Hammer's pretty good. Hammer is fringe world level, I guess you'd have to say, and Michael Wallisch, if he was going to be the real deal, he would have got through Hammer, but no, Hammer got through him. It was a 5th round KO for Christian Hammer. All the best to him. Moving out now to New Zealand at the Horncastle Arena in Christchurch, we saw over here two fights to mention. We saw Junior Farr, 15-0, now 16-0. A TKO in the very first round against Rogelio Rossi, who's now 20-7 with one draw. It was for the interim WBO Oriental heavyweight title. Junior Farr, who I believe beat Joseph Parker in the amateurs not just once, I think it was twice. He's now 16-0, so a prospect to keep an eye on there. And the main event here, obviously we just mentioned him, Joseph Parker, 25-2 now. A knockout in the 3rd round against Alexander Flores, who's now 17-2 with one draw. The other loss came to Charles Martin, and Joseph Parker's gone and done it, I believe, in the same round, or if not, then one round before Charles Martin did. So a good win there for Joseph Parker. We went on the prediction league, and we all went with Parker to win by knockout, so we all gain a point there. Moving out now to the O2 Academy in Bournemouth, Dorset, UK. We have over here Chris Callum Smith. He moved to 8-0, a TKO in the 6th and final round against a guy who was 1-6. The guy was down in the first round and also in the second round, but it did take the final round for Chris Callum Smith to actually get the stoppage. Like I say, 6th round TKO. And on the undercard, the return of Joe Pigford, who's been out the ring for about a year and a half, or even a little bit more. He hasn't fought since the Aaron Morgan fight, in which he won. He remained undefeated, now 14-0, a KO in round 3 against Daniel Urbanski, who is now 21-27 with 3 draws. A good win there for Joe Pigford. I want to see him much more active. He really does have a lot of talent. Moving now to the Brentwood Centre in Brentwood, Essex, UK. A few fights to mention over here. We saw the debut of Muhammad Bilal Ali. He's actually a guy that trains in the Peacock Gym. He's very much part of the Anthony Yard entourage. He had his debut here, a points win over 4 rounds against journeyman Andy Harris, who I believe was having almost his 70th fight, something like that. I think it was his 69th fight, woohoo. Hamza Shiraz moved to 6-0, a points win over 6 rounds against Jordan Granham, the journeyman, 4-43 with 1 draw now. Ryan Garner picked up a win, a TKO in round 3 against Jose Aguilar. Ryan Garner now 8-0, very much a prospect to watch from your neck of the woods, Ayaz. Also on the bill, we saw Bradley Skeet, 28-2, take on Diego Ramirez, 16-2. It was for the vacant WBO International welterweight title. Now, this was pretty crazy, in my opinion. As obviously Bradley Skeet, he lost earlier this year to Leharaga, in which he had his body attacked real bad, and then obviously bounced back, a win against a guy who'd never been stopped, called, I think his name was Fernando Valencia, and then he steps in against this guy here who he was completely expected to beat. We thought he was going to wipe the guy out. The problem is, the guy that he took on was something like, I think he was a 6 foot tall southpaw. Sorry, I say 6 foot tall. I think he might have even been 6'2". I think he was slightly taller than Bradley Skeet. Bradley Skeet's obviously big for the weight, but this guy was even bigger. And like I say, a southpaw. I mean, he had 2 losses on his resume, but none by stoppage. He's a kind of guy that you really struggle to find footage of, and his 2 losses came, in his hometown, really, or in his home nation of Argentina. He was one of those guys. He didn't have a big knockout ratio either. 5 knockout wins he's got now in 17, and that's including the one here against Bradley Skeet. He was able to knock Skeet out in the second round. Very, very bad place Bradley Skeet finds himself in now, Ayaz, and to be honest, I think it's a very hard road back for him.
You're right about that. I mean, unfortunately, Bradley Skeet obviously got knocked out in that fight. I mean, you're right here for him, tough coming back. If there's a comfortable fight, if there is one more fight left, I think that he should go for. It's a Frankie Gavin fight.
Yeah, I agree. I think now's the time for that. That's what I was going to say, to be honest. I think now's the time for that. Even though Frankie Gavin came out earlier this week saying that the Skeet fight's gone now. I think the Skeet fight's very much there now. What are you talking about? Yeah, but gutting for Skeet, man. I mean, I just want to quickly remind the listeners, this guy was ranked number 3 in the world with the WBO. He was waiting on a world title shot against Jeff Horn. Let's have it right. He won the British title outright. He absolutely wiped up domestically with ease, really. He was fantastic. He won that British title outright, dedicated it to Dean Powell. And, he's moved on. He's thought, right, okay, world title shot against Jeff Horn. Jeff Horn did not want no part of Bradley Skeet. He really didn't. He opted to fight Gary Corcoran. In the meantime, Bradley Skeet thinks, you know what, I'm going to tick over, have a fight for the European title against this guy that no one's ever heard of with a padded record in Spain. Goes over there, gets cleaned out by Leharaga. It wasn't the Bradley Skeet that we know in the ring that night. Very hostile territory. And then he comes back. I think he fought one fight, knocked a guy out that had never been stopped. He was back. He was happy about that. And then he takes on this guy here. And I'm not going to lie. I didn't even try and get Bradley Skeet on the show because I thought this was not really a meaningful fight to talk about, and he gets cleaned out in the second round, and it wasn't with a body shot like the way that Leharaga was ripping to his body, and it's quite clear to see Bradley Skeet's very, very slim. If you hit him in the ribs, he's not going to like it. He's a tall guy, he's a boxer, he's a boxer mover, and it all unravelled once again, and this time it was by a shot on the chin. I think it was a looping left hook that Bradley Skeet saw coming, and he tried to kind of move away from the shot, and it just caught him on the sweet spot, and he went down, and it was shocking. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And then he got back up. He was very wobbly. He just about was allowed to carry on, and I was really worried for him. I don't think there was too long left in the round. I could be mistaken. And the guy went looking for him, and then they kind of started like clinching, and then the guy sort of threw Bradley Skeet, like he wrestled him. He kind of threw him to the side, and Bradley Skeet just, he didn't even take a punch. He went into the corner, like he kind of went head first into the corner, where the advertisement board would be for Frank Warren, and I don't think he even hit his head on it. He kind of just fell into the corner, and he was very shaky, and he had his back to the guy, and obviously the referee stopped it and said, right, turn round, and he just couldn't turn round, and when he turned round, he was so shaky on his legs, he was absolutely gone, and the referee stopped it. I think he could have ended up getting brutally knocked out, and I didn't want to see that, but equally, I don't want to see him lose to a guy like that. I don't know where he goes from here. Very gutting. It's very sad for me because him and I'm getting confused with Frankie Gavin. Him and Frank Buglioni are two of the nicest guys in boxing. I can say that with all my heart, hand on heart. Anyone will tell you those guys are the nicest guys in boxing, and both men have been served up bad losses in a matter of weeks. Frank Buglioni's decided to retire. I'm not quite sure what Bradley Skeet does from here. Like I say, he was really up there, possibly going to be getting a massive career high payday, and he never got the world title shot, and now he's lost at European level, and now he's lost at a level that he should be way better than. So I'm absolutely gutted for Skeet. I don't know what he does from here. Moving up the bill once again. What did we see over here? We saw Sonny Edwards. He moved to 10-0, perfect record there. He took on Junior Granados, a former opponent of Jamie Conlon. Granados now 16-6 with one draw. It was for the vacant WBO International Super Flyweight title. It was a bit confusing on what belt was going to be on the line. I think Sonny Edwards was supposed to, defend his European title, I thought at first, but obviously this guy wasn't European, so another belt ended up being brought in, and fair play to Sonny for picking up the win here. He was actually down himself in the second round, and he admitted afterwards that's the first time he's ever been down in sparring, in an amateur fight ever. That was the first time he's ever been knocked down. It was a flash knockdown, really. He got straight back up and he went into southpaw straight away. The commentary didn't really pick up on it, but he did that to start landing a power jab because his right hand, obviously his power hand, was closest to the target when in southpaw, and he was really popping out that power jab, and he was on the attack. I mean, he still kind of won the round despite being dropped. It was pretty smart work from Edwards, to be completely honest. He wanted to get up, he wanted to win the round despite the knockdown, and he even landed a couple of big shots towards the end of the round, the straight shots. I think that he was a little bit too honest in the post-fight interview. He said he's not really ready for a world title fight at the moment. He's not world level, and that, if he got hit like that by a world level fighter, then he wouldn't get up. I felt he was being a little bit too honest there. But, aside from that, it was a minor little hiccup. It was a little bit like the Andrew Selby and Christopher Rosales fight, which Selby got dropped in the first round and got up to win everything from that point. It was a little bit similar here. Sonny got dropped in the second round and won everything aside from that, that little knockdown that we're going to probably forget about, to be honest, in a few months' time. But we mentioned Christopher Rosales. Obviously, we'll be talking about that in the preview part of the show, where he takes on Sonny's brother. Oh boy, oh boy. Moving out now to the York Hall in Bethnal Green, London. One or two fights to mention over here. We saw John Joe Nevin pick up win number 11, a points win over 8 rounds against Renato Kahina, a man that's been on the road in the UK many, many times. His record now 14-56 with 5 draws. That was his 75th fight. Unbelievable stuff there. And also on the undercard, we saw heavyweight Nick Webb, 13-1. That one lost to Dave Allen. He got in there against Kamil Sokolowski, 5-14 with 2 draws. Now, Sokolowski, I've said it time and time again, he's a lot better than his record would suggest. He's been in there with David Price, etc. He's gave everyone a tough fight. I think he even fought Dillian Whyte. And he got in there with Nick Webb, and I said it last week that they both shared a bill in which they both got wins the other month. I think it was September, and it was on Nick Webb's birthday. He got a knockout win, and Sokolowski come and upset a prospect and got a knockout win, took his O. And the pair fought here, and Sokolowski, obviously, the opponent, the underdog, he managed to score a knockout in the third round, a vicious knockout. I think it was in the third round. Webb was down from a shot where basically they were both in the middle of the ring exchanging, and he got hit with a shot. It was hard to see from the angle that I got what shot he got hit with, and his legs completely folded. He fell down. It was really big. He got back up. He was on wobbly legs. He went back to his corner. He was looking at people outside the ring. I'm not quite sure if he knew where he was. And the referee said, right, continue boxing. And literally, Sokolowski just walked in. He walked forward, threw a looping left hook, caught Webb, and Webb was out for the count. And I'm hearing it was a brutal, brutal knockout. I mean, I've seen footage of it, but it was shocking. I think he was down for quite a while. It was quite worrying. But all the very best to Nick Webb. He is a friend of the show, but he had a real nice looking record until he bumped into Dave Allen. And, you know, to lose to Sokolowski, I'm not quite sure where you go from there. That is a humongous loss there. That's such an upset. I really can't put into words. That is a huge upset. Sokolowski once again proving you just can't overlook him. Moving out now though to the final bill to mention, it happened at the Madison Square Garden, the MSG at New York, USA. Let's start with the undercard here. We saw Yves Ulysse Jr. I actually missed his fight. I know that they televised it, but I didn't know that the fight card started as early as what it did, so I missed it. I went back and looked, and I saw that I think he dropped his man in the 6th round and 7th round, but just skimming through it really, I didn't actually watch too much of it. So he moved to 17 wins. He's got that one questionable loss. A win here over Maximiliano Becerra, who's now 16-3 with 2 draws. That's a good win there for Yves Ulysse, a very good fighter. Also on the bill, we saw Lamont Roach move to 18-0, still undefeated. He's got one minor blemish, which is a draw. He took on Alberto Mercado, who's 15-2 now with 1 draw. It was for the WBO International Super Featherweight title. A good win there, unanimously over 10 rounds for Lamont Roach. And now for me, the fight of the night actually, Ryan Garcia. He took on Braulio Rodriguez, 19-3. Obviously, the opponent for Garcia was a puncher. I think he had something like 17 knockouts from his 19 wins. A first-round knockdown for Garcia, though. The pair were actually holding each other. It was weird, because I've always thought about this in a boxing match. 2 guys are holding each other. The referee doesn't call break, and Garcia just let go of him, step back, and then step back in with a big right hand. And, you know, it was smart stuff. It landed just behind the ear, actually, and his man went down. You know, he got up, he was on unsteady legs, but he made it through that round. Both men had really quick hands, and when I analysed it, Garcia finds real good angles, man. I mean, he'll throw like 3 different shots from 3 different angles, and he's technically a real good fighter. People forget his extensive amateur career. You know, in the next few rounds, I mean, his opponent would go on to showboat and stuff like that. I think he did the Ali shuffle once or twice, but Garcia won every round, and to be honest, he's a young guy. You know, he didn't get frustrated, he didn't get baited in, and then the knockout came in the 5th round, and it was lovely when it came. It was a great shot, and you know, he kind of shut up like a brash and you know, showman kind of opponent, which is the best thing to do if someone's showing off, is to knock them out. And he did that here, so a great win for Ryan Garcia, now 17-0, very much a world-ranked fighter and the ladies' favourite, they call him. Also on the bill, we saw Saddam Ali move to 27-2, a win over Mauricio Herrera, who's now 24-8, unanimously over 10 rounds this one. Gotta be honest, it was on, but it was so boring, I completely zoned out. A 10-round unanimous decision there for Ali. He obviously was a world champion at 154, but he's back down at 147. Also on the bill, Katie Taylor moved to 12-0. She successfully defended her IBF and WBA world female lightweight titles against Eva Wallstrom, who was undefeated, 22-0 with 1 draw. Katie Taylor won every round, really. A beatdown, really, she put on Wallstrom. I think the pair have had 1 or 2 fights in the amateurs. Wallstrom was actually coming up a weight, and she didn't have too much notice, so you know, you can't really read too much into that. Also on the bill, moving up once again on what was a great card, by the way. Lots and lots of good names on it. Not the best fights on TV, but some great names. Tevin Farmer picked up another defense of his IBF World Super Featherweight title. He took on Francisco Fonseca Ayaz. Fonseca now 22-2 with 1 draw. His 2 losses have come to 2 men that absolutely hate each other, and it is the fight we want to see. Obviously, Farmer won here unanimously over 12 rounds. He couldn't stop Fonseca. It looked like at many points that he was going to be able to stop him, but he didn't get the stoppage in the end. I wasn't too surprised with that. Fonseca's other loss came by knockout to Gervonta Davies on the Mayweather versus McGregor undercard. Tevin Farmer, though, pretty much won every round. He did take quite a few decent shots towards the end, but nothing too problematic, really. Tevin Farmer now 28-4 with 1 draw. And the main event now, Ayaz, I'm going to throw it to you now because I've been talking away. Rocky Fielding 27-1 took on Saul Canelo Alvarez 50-1 with 2 draws. It was for Rocky's WBA World Super Middleweight title. Fielding was down once in the first, once in the second, and twice in the third and final round. Talk to me.
I mean, all I gotta say is well done for Rocky Fielding. 4 years ago when he fought Callum Smith, he was knocked out. No one. He won the British title. Everyone doubted him, saying, "Yeah, he's not going to win a world title." He went to Germany, and he was not the favorite to win the fight against Tyron Zoga. He tops Tyron Zoga 5 months down the line. He's topped the bill at Madison Square Garden against one of the pound for pound fighters, in my opinion, which is Saul Canelo Alvarez. Obviously, fighting someone like Canelo Alvarez, Rocky Fielding is much bigger than Canelo. You can see by the size difference. Obviously, Canelo, he likes to hit him with his body shots. Like in the first round, he knocked Rocky Fielding down. The second round, knocked him down. The third round, knocked him down. Fielding did try to trade with Canelo, but obviously Canelo still broke him down. And in the third round, obviously, Fielding got stopped. Obviously, and I think what's going to happen now, I think personally, Canelo is going to vacate that title. That's what I think is going to happen. And we'll fulfill where Fielding goes from here. I mean, there is still big fights for him. I think a James DeGale fight would be very good, but obviously that might not even happen because James DeGale could fight Chris Eubank Jr. Now Canelo saying that he wants the third fight with Triple G. I think personally I wouldn't go for the third fight now. I think I'll go for the Danny Jacobs, and in September fight Canelo, fight Triple G one more time. But we shall see what happens now. I mean, it's exciting times of boxing, obviously, super middleweight. But a fight that I like to see happen is Andre Ward come out of retirement, fight Canelo. I think Andre Ward will still beat him.
Nah, man, he wouldn't make super middleweight, Ayaz, after being out for so long. I mean, he retired at light heavy, didn't he? He's not going to make super middle. And even then, we saw the other night. Even you said it there. I think Canelo's going to probably go back down to 160. One thing that I forgot to mention was that we all did a prediction on the Edwards fight against Granados. The listeners actually went with Granados to win by knockout. I mean, they were probably licking their lips in the second round, but no, it wasn't to be. It ended up being an Edwards points win. Myself and Ayaz gain a point there. And just before I get on to the actual fight here, Rocky and Canelo, I mean, we all went with Canelo to win by knockout. So for me, I've gained 4 out of 4. I really am doing so well lately. I can't believe it. People are going to probably think I'm lying. Go back and listen. I'm telling you, I don't cheat, unlike Ayaz in the early days. I think he was throwing a few dodgy last minute changes in the scores. We've got 3 points for you, Ayaz. The only one that you got wrong was Ramirez to win by knockout, and then the listeners actually got 2 out of 4. So that means, Ayaz, you've caught up the listeners. You're both tied once again. You've come from last place into joint second. But yeah, the fight itself. I mean, that first round, when Rocky Fielding got knocked down, I said it last week. I said he'd probably get stopped on a body shot. I mean, Rocky did take a knee. It was a left hook to the body there. Canelo viciously attacked the body in that first round. It was a 10-8 round, but Fielding just looked completely out of his depth straight away. It was sad to see. The shots that he did throw, he wasn't even really turning them over properly in that first round. He looked like he froze a bit. He looked like the occasion got to him. In the second round, to be honest, Rocky actually did land a couple of nice shots finally. He made so many mistakes, so he would just voluntarily go back and lay on the ropes and become a target for Canelo. He wasn't using his feet. He wasn't moving around. He wasn't using his size. He wasn't using his reach or his distance. And Canelo was just walking him down and pushing him back. And with 25 seconds to go, Rocky once again took a knee from a body shot. So 20-16 on the scorecards after 2 rounds. And then in the third round, it was another fairly competitive round until Rocky got caught with a right hook to the jaw. Down he went. He wasn't too badly hurt. The referee said 1 more and that's it. And then when the action continued, it took Canelo about 5 seconds to land another nice body shot, and Fielding took another knee, and that was it for him. Like I say, I hope he got well paid. I'm sure he did. It's probably a career high payday for him, but the title is gone. He's no longer a world champion. He's no longer really a target. It was a very, very short reign, but he is in the record books if you consider the regular world title to be a proper world title. You said, where does he go from here, Ayaz? And I've got to be honest, I wasn't too sure, but you brought up the James DeGale fight. If the Chris Eubank Jr. fight doesn't happen, I'd actually like to see that. James DeGale, Rocky Fielding. I think that's a great fight. I really do. But yeah, I'm not quite sure where he goes if he doesn't get one of those guys. I'm not really interested in a Callum Smith rematch. I don't think there's any point in that. If he doesn't fight, I'm going to put you on the spot a bit here, Ayaz. If he doesn't fight Eubank Jr. or he doesn't fight James DeGale, where does he go?
That's a very tough one.
I'm kind of putting you on the spot a little bit there.
Obviously, there is one other fight. Anthony Dirrell's going to be fighting for a WBC belt. Is that correct?
I'm not too sure, I've got to be honest.
there's a rumor that he could be fighting for that. Now, obviously, if Anthony Terrell does win it,
then that's a fight for him.
then that's a fight for him there.
Yeah.
And I think Rocky Fielding will beat him.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's a winnable fight for him for sure. But yeah, he is in a bit of a strange place from world champion to to not much. I mean, there's a big fight. The main fight for him is the winner of Eubank Jr. and James DeGale, or not even just the winner, but if he just gate crashes that and fights one of them, then that's a big fight for him. But other than that, I think he's going to struggle. I tell you what, when Zach Parker is healed up, I think he would definitely take the fight against Rocky Fielding. But yeah, it is what it is. That is the end of the review part. We've gone over everything there. Just before we wrap up part one, there is one last thing to do. You know what it is. It's to welcome our very first guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the former heavyweight world title challenger. It is, of course, Mr. Dominic Breazeale. Dominic, welcome back on the show, my friend. It's been a little while.
Yeah, it's been a while. Thank you, Joey, for having me.
Hey, it's my pleasure, Dom. So we last spoke back in October of last year. It's been quite a while. It was before the Eric Molina fight, which was obviously your last fight. You went on to beat Molina comfortably over 8 rounds until he decided to retire on his stall and not come out for round 9. Was that fight easier or tougher, Dom? I know it's in the past now, but was it easier or tougher than you imagined it would be going into it?
I think it was kind of in between. There were some things he did that I wasn't expecting. His movement as a heavyweight was a lot better than most heavyweights. But I wouldn't say it was tougher, and I also wouldn't say it was easier. I had my work cut out for me. I was able to get the job done a lot sooner than I thought I was going to. And because of it, I used it as a learning experience and moved on to become the WBC mandatory.
And you mentioned there about being the WBC mandatory. I mean, there was some confusion surrounding that fight because we were kind of hearing things from Eddie Hearn over here saying one thing about Dillian Whyte being number 1 ranked and this and that. I'm probably not doing a great job of clearing the situation up. Could you please explain it in your words? Obviously coming from the horse's mouth, so to speak. What was the situation there?
Yeah, definitely. I was told by the president of WBC, Mauricio, that I was fighting Eric Molina for the WBC mandatory that night in November. I do understand that Dillian Whyte has fought for the WBC silver heavyweight belt, but the WBC mandatory and the WBC silver heavyweight belt are 2 different things. Therefore, I was honored to represent the USA and be awarded that WBC mandatory. I know people have said that me and Dillian Whyte need to get this fight on, and that's something that I'm not opposed to. I know we tried to work it out earlier part of this year. It's something we could probably still work out, seeing the fact that Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury might be fighting again. But Dillian Whyte's got his fight, I think, this Saturday against Chisora. I've got my fight against Carlos Negron, and may the best man win each fight and move on from there.
And speaking of Deontay Wilder, in the build-up to the Wilder vs. Fury fight, PBC asked 22 different fighters their opinion on the fight. 21 of them picked Wilder to win. You were the only one to pick Fury to win. It ended up obviously being a draw, pretty controversial in many people's eyes. Who did you think won the fight, Dominic?
I picked Tyson Fury to win it in the beginning, and I still thought, being there in person December 1st, watching the fight every round, scoring every round, watching the knockdowns, I still believe that Tyson Fury won the fight. On the same time, I kind of go with the judges on the draw. You never want to see a belt change hands to an opponent who's been knocked down twice in a heavyweight title fight. It's kind of hard. It's kind of hard for the sport, but on cards, on points, decision-wise, Tyson Fury won that fight.
Okay, but it was close enough to not really be called a robbery, you mean?
Yes, definitely was close enough to not be called a robbery, of course.
Okay, fair enough. And let's talk about this fight for you here. I'm coming up on Saturday in New York. Dominic, your opponent, Carlos Negron, holds a record of 20-1. What do you know about this guy? I've tried to look at some of his footage, and I can't really see too much about him.
Yeah, that is one thing I've realized. Carlos Negron is a hard guy to locate. He's hard to find. I've been trying to find some film as well. Got a couple things out there on him. I understand that he's 6'6", about 230. He's got a great amateur pedigree because he represented the Puerto Rican Olympic team in 2008. He brings a record 20-1. From what I understand, he's doing all the right things and beating all the right people. At one point, he was a WBC Continental Americas champ. I think he beat Derek Rossi in his last fight for that. I've also obtained that title back in I believe January of 2016. So he's doing the right steps. But at the same time, I believe he's in for one of the toughest fights of his life. I don't think he's ever fought anybody with my caliber of experience, nor is he ever fighting on a big show like he's going to fight on Saturday night.
Yeah, I tend to agree. And obviously, his only loss came 7 years ago. He's coming off a few nice wins. You mentioned there, one over Derek Rossi. The pair of you combined, you've got 39 wins and 33 by knockout. So I'm guessing this one certainly won't go to the final bell.
No, without, man. I'm always looking for that big knockout punch. I'm not searching for it, but when it comes, I'm pretty good about taking advantage of it. And like you were saying, we've got some pretty good knockout ratios. I currently am, like you said, 19-1 with 17 KOs, and I plan on going for the 18th KO on Saturday night.
And you're heavily favoured to win the bout, Dominic. Should you win, is there a plan in place at the moment for your next fight in 2019, or not just yet?
When I win Saturday night, there's not just a plan set involved. We were planning on getting back in the ring in April of 2019, and that was to face the WBC title holder, which right now currently is Deontay Wilder, but it looks like they're in the talks of putting together a part 2 Wilder Fury situation, which is a little upsetting, but at the same time, I'm looking forward to the spring. I'm going to stay busy only because of the fact that you never know what's next. And if it's a title shot, by all means, I'm going to take advantage of that. If it's just another fight to stay busy, then I'll be ready for that as well.
Yeah, no, I like the way you answer that question, because everyone wants to see this Wilder Fury rematch, but for you, I mean, it's a bit annoying having to kind of wait again. One question I want to throw your way, Dominic, and it's an interesting question. If you can for 1 minute kind of take yourself out of the equation so that you're not so much waiting for these guys, but if it was up to you, stylistically, what fight would you like to see most? If I throw 3 names at you, Wilder, Joshua, and Tyson Fury, if those guys, if only 2 of them could fight each other next, which fight would you like to see?
I mean, I think I'm going to go with the rest of the world and go with the Joshua Wilder fight, only because Joshua's proven that he's one of the best heavyweights in the world right now, currently holding, 3 or 4 belts. He's fought some of the best opposition out there in the heavyweight game. And Wilder, on the other hand, is just starting to prove himself. He barely got by the skin of his teeth, retaining his belt on a draw against Fury. Ortiz had him hurt a couple times. He's been in some fights with some higher end caliber guys, and he's been hurt and he's been rattled. So I'd love to see the 2 of those face off against each other and see who becomes victorious. I think not to put Fury down, but it's one of those situations when one title holder faces another title holder. I mean, the world can come to a stop, and everybody's going to watch, because at the end of it, there's going to be an undisputed heavyweight champ.
Yeah, very true. And coming down to the final couple questions, Dominic, a few hours before your fight on Saturday, you did mention over here in the UK we'll see the rematch between Dillian Whyte and Derek Chisora. The first one could have gone either way. It was a very good fight. I'm not sure if you watched it. Who do you expect to win this one, by the way?
I think Dillian Whyte makes the adjustments. I know it was a close one the first time. Chisora's a great fighter, not taking anything from him, but Dillian Whyte's made some adjustments before in the past, and I think he's going to do so the same on Saturday night. I don't think Dillian Whyte's camp would have let him get involved in a fight they don't think he can win. The first time, I don't think they were expecting Chisora to do what he did, but this time around, they're going to make some adjustments and definitely win that fight.
And it is the month of December. Everybody that we interview in the month of December, it's a bit of a tradition. We like to ask, what is on your Christmas wish list in terms of your boxing career this time next year? Where do you want to be? Where can you be in a realistic world this time, 2019?
This time next year, on my Christmas list, and one of the biggest things yet is I want to be, if not fighting for the WBC title, defending the WBC title. It shouldn't take any much longer than maybe this spring, if not this past summer that's coming up in 2019, for me to get a shot at the WBC title. And when I do, the first person I want to bring to his attention is Joshua. He's my only professional loss. It's time for, to get a vengeance. So if he gets Wilder before me, then, so be it. But it's been my drive since I lost that Joshua fight to get my own belt. And the only one that he doesn't retain is the WBC title. I'm next in line for it. To get the WBC title would mean everything, because then I can say, hey, Joshua, listen, man, we got to square off, and now we have to do it now because I've got the belt you want.
that would really be something. I wish you all the very best with that. I mean, like I say, to come back from the Joshua loss and to get in the position that you've got into, it's amazing, man. I'm really proud about that. And finally, just before I let you go, Dominic, have you got any kind of closing words to the UK listeners over here, the guys that support you and follow you over here? What's your message to those guys?
You know what, to the UK fans and, of course, the fans around the world, I got to thank you for the support. I've had a great UK following since the Joshua fight, before the Joshua fight, and currently, if they can tune in on Fox, not to miss it, Fox, PBC on Fox is going to be great. I'm going to try to steal the show with a big knockout come this Saturday, and hopefully, everything goes right and I get my shot at the WBC title. If not, maybe me and you guys' boy Dillian Whyte get it going.
Hey, that really would be something. It really would. But listen, Dominic, I'd like to thank you so much once again for your time. Best of luck for Saturday. Have a fantastic Christmas. Have a very, very happy and great New Year. And we shall catch up at some point in the early part of 2019, I hope.
Oh, I truly appreciate it. Thank you very much for your time, and thanks for having me on again. God bless. Merry Christmas.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part, of course, the news part of the show. Ayaz, what have you got for us?
Right, Sam Bowen will face Ronnie Clark on February the 23rd.
Yes, that one to take place in Leicester. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's been rescheduled. My brain's all over the place at the moment, but literally, I think it was supposed to happen the other week at the Brentwood Centre. If I'm not mistaken, I really could be wrong, but I think it's been rescheduled. So it's brilliant that has been rescheduled because it's a tough fight. I mean, Ronnie Clark, for all the the crazy hair and the crazy antics in the ring, he really can fight. And it's coming back to me now. I think he was actually supposed to get a fight against Sam Bowen, and the money that he was going to get paid, he was going to spend on his kids for Christmas, and he actually had to auction on eBay his IBF European title that he won against Zelfa Barrett. He had to put that on eBay and try and make some money so that he can buy Christmas presents for his kids, which is extremely sad. But anyway, the fight's been rescheduled, and it's a great fight because, like I say, he can give anyone a fight, and he's much more than just crazy hairstyles.
Demetrius Andrade will make his first defense of his WBO title against Artur Akavov on January the 18th.
And just to give the listeners a little bit of a backstory, Artur Akavov is the guy that Billy Joe Saunders fought in Scotland and looked really poor against when Ben Davison was in his corner. So, Akavov gave Billy Joe a real tough fight. Some people think Akavov actually did enough to get the win that night on points, but he obviously lost on points. But he's not a big name. He's not got a fantastic style. He's not very fan friendly, and I'd expect Demetrius Andrade to have too much for him really come January the 18th.
And finally, with Willie Monroe testing positive for a banned substance, Matt Korobov will instead face Jamal Charlo.
Yeah, that one happening this Saturday. We will get onto that in the preview part of the show. But yeah, Willie Monroe Jr. out the fight. It's a real shame. He was on a couple of weeks ago, and he had a fantastic camp and everything, and it was really great talking to him. He's a man that's gone through so many ups and downs, and I can't quite believe it. I mean, obviously the WBC have ruled him out the fight, so I'm not quite sure what's gone on, but it's all a bit confusing at the moment with VADA and this and that, and he's not fighting. But it's a great shame because it's another another negative piece of his career, really. He's had so many ups and downs, and it was looking real good for him. And I actually thought he had a decent-ish chance to give Charlo a good fight, but it wasn't to be. And in steps Korobov, a man that we've seen before. We saw him obviously get iced by Andy Lee when they fought, but decent replacement, really.
And that's it for the news.
Okay, thank you very much, Ayaz. Let's start the preview part of the show in New South Wales, Australia, at the Emporio Function Centre in a place called Bankstown. One fight really to mention over here. We've got Luke Jackson, former opponent of Carl Frampton, on a Carl Frampton fight week. 16-1. He's in an 8-rounder against Rivo Renkung, who's got a record of 37-28 with 6 draws. Also on the undercard, Yusuf Dib, I believe a relative of Billy Dib. His record 10-0. He takes on Ty Gilchrist, who is 6-7 with 1 draw. Moving out now to Poland, we've got a fight or two to mention over here. We've got this one's at the Mosir Hall in Radom. We've got Robert Parzukzuski, I think his name is, 21-1. He puts his Republic of Poland light heavyweight title on the line against Southpaw Darius Sek, former opponent of Anthony Yard, 28-4 with 3 draws. That's a 10-rounder there. Also on the undercard, we've got Adam Bowski, the undefeated prospect, 12-0. He's in an 8-rounder against Sergey Radchenko, who's 7-2. And finally, the rematch. It was supposed to happen I think it was about 4 or 5 weeks ago. Damian Jonak, 41-0 with 1 draw, still undefeated, the most padded record ever. He takes on Andrew Robinson, our very own, bit of a warrior, had a great fight against Frank Buglioni, 21-4 with 1 draw. I'd like to see how good this guy Damian Jonak is, because it will be a war, I'd imagine, because Andrew Robinson can seriously fight and he's a tough guy. So it'd be interesting to see the level of Jonak, who's got such a brilliant looking record, but he's so padded. He's forever warm because he's so padded. Moving out now to Manchester in Lancashire, United Kingdom. This one is one of the 2 pay-per-view cards this weekend. Let's start with the undercard here. It really is a stacked undercard. Paddy Barnes, 5-1. His opponent yet to be announced. Also on the bill, we've got Michael Conlan in a step up against Jason Cunningham. That's a cracking fight, by the way. Cunningham 24-5, Conlan 9-0. We've also got Martin Murray 37-4 with 1 draw. He takes on Hassan N'Dam 36-3. Brilliant fight. This is very much 2 fringe world level fighters fighting for a chance to really probably get a world title fight at the end of it. We've gone to the predictions on this, Ayaz. Martin Murray, Hassan N'Dam, brilliant fight.
I'm going to go with Martin Murray to win via points.
Martin Murray on points, interesting, okay. The listeners have gone with Hassan N'Dam to win on points, and I'm going to go with the same, really. I think the problem with Hassan N'Dam, I think he's a real good boxer. The only problem is I don't think he's got the best chin, and I don't really see Murray having the power to really test his chin. I think Murray's also really at the last stage of his career now. I think he's there for the taking a little bit. Hassan N'Dam in a similar boat. I don't think he's freshest, but I think he's got a lot more to offer, really, and I think he's the all-round better fighter, so I'm going to go with Hassan N'Dam, friend of the show, to win that one there. Also on the bill, we have the debut of Tommy Fury, the brother of Tyson. I remember being in a dressing room for Hughie Fury's fight. I remember being with Tommy, and this guy, I think he was 16 at the time, and he just looks exactly what he looks like now. I mean, he's got such a baby face. 16 years old. I remember the size of his hands, the size of his shoes that he was wearing. He's a big guy. He's not necessarily tall like Tyson, but he's real big. He's filled out. And, he's got one of those faces. All the Furies have got the face where they look a lot older than what they are. Hughie Fury, I mean, pictures of him when he's 19, he looks about 37. Tyson as well, even he looks a lot older than 29 or 30, whatever he is. But that runs in the family. But anyway, Tommy Fury takes on a guy who's had over 110 fights. His record is 10 wins, 102 losses and 3 draws. That is quite something. That's a 4-rounder there. Also on the bill, we've got Jack Massey, the undefeated prospect, 14-0. He's in a 6-rounder against Jiri Sfacina, who's 13-32. We've got Lyndon Arthur, 12-0, takes on Emmanuel Fazou, 10-9 with 2 draws. I think Emmanuel Fazou fought Frank Buglioni the fight before Frank Buglioni's final fight. We've got Nathan Gorman, 14-0, supposed to take on Alex Leapai, but he takes on Razvan Kajanu, 16-4, who was supposed to fight Daniel Dubois last weekend, but obviously Dubois pulled out with a flu, so in stepped Kajanu. Kajanu's last 2 fights, like we say, he's been in there with the likes of Luis Ortiz and the likes of Joseph Parker. He took Parker the distance, but he didn't take Ortiz the distance. I think he got knocked out in 2 rounds. But yes, it's a step up again for Gorman, Ayaz. It's a brilliant fight for him. I think I probably fancied the Alex Leapai fight a little bit better. I think it's more exciting. I think Leapai is probably a little bit better than Kajanu. But Kajanu sparred some tough guys over the years. Like I say, he took Parker the distance. If Gorman can do it in the distance, then it's a bit of a statement. It would have been the same for Daniel Dubois if he was able to do it. But yeah, it's a good fight. It's another step up really for Gorman, and it's a decent one, Ayaz.
It's a very decent step up for Gorman. But I think Gorman will take him out. I think Gorman's a very good fighter. Obviously, Ricky Hand being trained by Ricky Hand. So I think Gorman's going to stop him, and I think it'll be a good fight.
And also a friend of the show, he was on last week, Liam Williams, 18-2 with one draw. Obviously, he's moved up now to 160 to middleweight. He takes on the undefeated 21-0 prospect Mark Heffron. It's for the vacant British middleweight title. Can Liam Williams be a British champion at 2 weights? We'll have to wait and see. He's actually the underdog, by the way, against Heffron. Heffron, obviously a big puncher, and Liam Williams fought his brother and made his brother retire on his stall. So Heffron's trying to get revenge for his brother. But Liam Williams told me last week he's expecting to probably stop him late. So could be a very interesting fight, that one. A lot of people saying that's going to be fight of the night. There's many fights of the night. Like I say, 2 cards in the UK, really big ones, both on pay-per-view. It is a great shame. Who do you favour in that one, Ayaz? We've gone to the predictions once again. Mark Heffron, Liam Williams.
I want to go Liam Williams by knockout.
Liam Williams by knockout, okay. I can't disagree. I'm going to go with Liam Williams on points. And the listeners I know have gone with Liam Williams also. Let me just confirm. They've gone with Williams by knockout as well. So you're not on your own there, Ayaz. Moving up the bill for the final time. This is the final fight to mention on this bill. We've got Carl Frampton challenging Josh Warrington. Let's start with Warrington's record here. I'm going to start with that. Josh Warrington, 27-0, his first defence of his IBF World Featherweight crown. He takes on Carl Frampton, 26-1. It's a great fight, Ayaz, really. I mean, obviously, Frampton coming off a couple of decent wins now. The Luke Jackson win was a good win. The win against Donaire, I think he was brilliant in. But Josh Warrington coming off a better win than all of that. The way he dissected Lee Selby, the way he beat Lee Selby up. I know Lee Selby was weight drained and all that, but no one gave him a chance in that fight. He's pulled off a massive upset there, and he's still undefeated. I think, there's something about Warrington. He's got the hunger, he's got the drive, not necessarily the superior boxing skills, but you cannot count him out.
Yeah, I mean, that's true what you said, Joe. When Josh Warrington fought Lee Selby, everyone wrote him off. Everyone believed that he wasn't ready for the fight. Everyone believed that he's not a world title level, he's just a European level. But he's accomplished that. He's accomplished his dream. He fought Ellen Road, beat Lee Selby. Now he's got a big fight against a 2-weight world champion, which is Carl Frampton. Obviously, Carl Frampton's beat Luke Jackson. He's fought Nonito Donaire. He's fought Santa Cruz in the past. I personally think I'm going to go with a Frampton win, and I think Frampton's going to stop him. I think Frampton's going to make a big statement because now that Frank Ron's shown that partnered up with Top Rank in ESPN, and that fight's been shown live in America, I think they're gearing up. Should Frampton win this fight, I think he's going to fight Oscar Valdez next. So I think Frampton's going to make a huge statement in this fight, and I think he's going to win him.
And that's what Ayaz likes to do. He likes to look into the future. That very much could be possible. I really think that could be possible. The thing about this is, I think the last half of the fight, the second half of the fight, I think is going to be very interesting because, Carl Frampton can't afford to gas late on. I think the first few rounds, I think Carl Frampton's going to be showing his boxing skills. He's going to be using his distance well. I think he's going to do really well. I think we're going to see a bit of a boxing clinic from Carl Frampton for the first few rounds. Josh Warrington, by the way, can't afford to really lose those rounds because he can't bank on stopping Carl Frampton. I'm not quite sure that he's got the power to do that. He needs to start fast as well. Both men really need to start fast, but the first rounds will be quite important, but I think the last few rounds will be quite interesting. So yeah, Warrington can't let Frampton get in a groove. Frampton can't let Warrington overwhelm him. And, he cannot afford to gas late on because that is where he could really come unstuck. We know that Warrington's got a fantastic engine. It's just simply down to how good Frampton is. We know what we get with Warrington, but Frampton needs to be on point because the thing about Warrington, for how much you might say he's not as good of a boxer, he's got that work rate, he's got that engine, and he will come on strong late on in the fight if Frampton slips. So an interesting fight, but I just think Frampton's going to be too clean of a boxer. I think he's too smart. He's got the experience that Warrington doesn't have. He's been a world champion before. I think he's got the wins under his belt. I think, like I say, he's got the experience. And for me, I think he's going to beat him on points. I'm going to predict on points. I don't really see Warrington being stopped. He hasn't really shown any vulnerabilities, and I don't think that Frampton's going to be the one pressing the action. I think he's very much going to sit back, try and counter, use his distance, like I say, and work off the back foot at most of the points in the fight. But Warrington has to kind of force the fight and press his man back and put the pressure on him. We know that he can be a pressure fighter. So yeah, for me, It could be interesting late on, like I say, but I think Frampton's going to probably win quite handily on points, but I could be wrong. Like I say, you cannot write Josh Warrington off. The listeners have gone with Frampton on points also, but you've gone with the knockout. Ayaz, very ballsy of you. Moving out now to the O2 Arena in Greenwich, London, United Kingdom, the other pay-per-view show, Eddie Hearn's Matchroom boxing card. We have over here Josh Buatsi, 8-0. He puts his WBA International Light Heavyweight title on the line against former Chris Eubank Jr. opponent, Reynold Quinlan. I think Eubank got him out of there. I think it was in the 9th or 10th round of a 12-rounder. So... if Buatsi does it quicker, then the measuring stick comes out for that. We have Christopher Rosales, 28-3, defending his WBC World Flyweight title against Charlie Edwards. Christopher Rosales, as we know quite a bit about him, strangely. We don't know too much about many fighters from Nicaragua, but this guy's been over here. I think this is going to be the 4th time he's come over here. He fought Cal Yafai, he lost to him. He fought Andrew Selby, he dropped him, but he lost to him on points. He fought Paddy Barnes. I don't think that one was in the UK. I think it might have been Northern Ireland, but anyway, he obviously beat Paddy Barnes, he stopped him, and now he comes over here against Charlie Edwards, a very good boxer, but a man who hasn't made the flyweight limit for quite a while now. Could he be dry at the weight? We're yet to see. I think Edwards is certainly the better boxer. The more superior boxing skills lie with him, but the power unquestionably is with Rosales. How do you see the fight playing out? We're going to the predictions on this also, my friend.
I follow Charlie Edwards on Instagram, and he looks in fantastic shape.
He always is, to be fair.
He looks very fantastic shape. Obviously, as we've interviewed him previously before, myself and you, Joey. He's a very nice person. Obviously, we've seen Christopher Rosales lose to Cal Yafai, like you said. Andrew Selby, he's beaten Paddy Barnes. I think Charlie Edwards, is going to step up because obviously he's fought previously for a world title, which is Ankara, which he was a 2-weight world champion. Ankara.
He fought John Real Casemiro, didn't he, on the Golovkin undercard? And Cass fought Jamie Conlan.
Yeah, Casemiro, and obviously
they're both Filipinos.
Yeah. And what it was, he's learned from that a lot, from that fight. Obviously, when you fight for a world title and you lose to that, you gain a lot of experience. I personally think he's gained a lot of experience from that. And I think that obviously, now he's fighting Christopher Rosales. I personally think he's going to win. I think he's going to win on points.
Edwards on points, and I agree with you, Ayaz. It is very much a wishful prediction as well, though. The listeners have gone with Rosales to win by knockout. 60% of voters going with that. Yeah, that could happen. Charlie is very, very confident. Obviously, we had him on the show talking about the fight a few weeks back. It's a tough fight. Like I say, many people that share the ring with Rosales do get a taste of his power. It's just, are you smart enough to stay away from it and to not get caught with anything clean? I think Charlie's got the ring IQ. I think Charlie's a real good boxer. He needs to just box and move. He needs to put on a boxing clinic, which he's very much capable of doing. If he does stand close or he does tire late on because he might have crashed the weight, which I don't think he has done, but if any of that was to happen, he ends up getting caught clean, that is when it's going to be very dangerous for him. He took the gallop very, very early on in his career to try and become the quickest Englishman to win a world title, and he got stopped in that fight, but he didn't disgrace himself that night. He's come back since then. It's been a bit frustrating for him waiting around, but he's looked really very, very good since then. I think he's matured. His man strength has arrived, and I think he's a force. I think he wins the fight. I really do. So I am absolutely pulling for him. A good friend of mine, as well as a regular. Well, I say regular. He's not been on the podcast that much actually. I always remind him when I see him. But I think he wins the fight, and of course, fingers and toes crossed for him to become the new WBC World Flyweight Champion. Also on the bill, we've got Ryan Walsh, 22-2 with 2 draws. We'd like to see the Isaac Lowe rematch, but it's not to be. Isaac Lowe fought on the Wilder Fury undercard, but in steps Reece Bellotti, 13-1. A step up for Bellotti, really. He lost his belt recently, earlier on this year, and he steps in here at British level. I think he lost his Commonwealth title, so this is quite an interesting step up, really. I don't think Walsh carries the power to bother Reece Bellotti, which is a little bit different to the time when Reece Bellotti lost his title. I keep forgetting the guy's name he fought. Ryan Doyle, that was his name. So yeah, I think Ryan Doyle was a bit of a puncher, even though again his record wouldn't suggest he's a big puncher, but I think this is an interesting fight. Bellotti probably doesn't have the superior boxing skills. Ryan Walsh is good. He's battle tested. He's battle hardened. And I think Reece Bellotti's going to probably have to put his power on Walsh pretty early. I think he could possibly stop Walsh. We'll have to see. But an interesting fight, an interesting clash of styles, that one for the British featherweight crown, which belongs to Walsh. And the main event over here, I has the rematch. Dillian Whyte, 24-1, taking on Derek Chisora, 29-8, a rematch. The first fight was, well, one of the best heavyweight fights we'd seen in years, especially, a non-title bout the first time round. It was a very close fight the first time round as well, as I remember having it pretty much, I think it was like a draw or maybe one round to Dillian Whyte. It was extremely close. I really can't believe they're doing it again. I think Dillian Whyte's crazy. He should just sit on his position and have an easy fight and wait for the winner of, the winner of Fury Wilder should the rematch happen, or perhaps wait around for the Joshua fight that's inevitable really to come for him. But he's deciding to put it all on the line again. I mean, we've got to appreciate it as fans. I mean, this year, Dillian Whyte deserves a mention. If he wins, he deserves a mention for one of the fighters of 2018. I mean, I'm not talking about, he's not up there with Usyk and he's not going to win, but he deserves a mention because he would have knocked out the undefeated Lucas Brown, beat Joseph Parker in a fight where he was able to drop him, and then if he wins this, then it's monumental this year, 2018 for Dillian Whyte, and he really solidifies himself as one of the best in the world, whether you like it or not, at heavyweight. Which way do you see it going, though, Ayaz? For me, I think I'm going to go with Dillian Whyte on points, but I think it's another close fight. It's a toss-up, really, once again.
First of all, let me say, personally, I wouldn't have took this Chisora fight. Obviously, there was rumours of him fighting Luis Ortiz, but Luis Ortiz fought on the undercard of Tyson Fury. Now, that's a fight I would have liked to see. Dillian Whyte versus Luis Ortiz, or someone like Dillian Whyte versus Jarrell Miller. Now, that's a fight I personally wanted to see. Obviously, the Chisora fight, the first one was brilliant. The second one, I want to see how it goes. Obviously, now that Chisora's linked up with David Haye, I want to see how he's gonna react, because David Haye's training is completely different, and David Haye said that he's been helping him out with his nutrition and that. So we're going to see a different Chisora here. But I personally think Dillian Whyte is still. I'm going to go with a Dillian Whyte to win on points, and I think it's going to be a cracking fight. But I think this will be completely different. I think we'll see a new Chisora. But like I said, Dillian Whyte is going to win this on points.
Yeah, so you're agreeing with me, Ayaz. The listeners are going with Dillian Whyte to win by knockout. I can't really see that happening. Both men have got more miles on the clock now, and I think Chisora's got more miles on the clock since the first fight than Dillian Whyte. I mean, Dillian Whyte nearly got stopped in that fight against Joseph Parker, but up until that, Joseph Parker didn't really do too much. It was one-way traffic for the Brown fight. And Chisora, I think he's had 2 fights, maybe, if I'm not mistaken, since the Dillian Whyte fight. Could be wrong, but those 2 fights, one of them was against Agit Kabayel in Monaco, in which he got completely outpointed. He lost easily. It was shocking, that version of Chisora. I couldn't believe it. I thought he was finished after that fight. And then he fought Takam, and he lost every single second of every single round. And then he come off the ropes when Takam was really was really tired, because literally Chisora stayed on the ropes, and it was a little bit rope-a-dope-ish. He come off the ropes, he hit Takam with a big shot, then Takam went down, and then of course he got back up and walked straight forward into the shot, which was just one of the silliest things I've ever seen a heavyweight boxer do. He walked straight into another shot, and that was all she wrote. It ended up being a brilliant win, which has actually catapulted him into this fight, really, because Derek Chisora, he wasn't a big name after losing to Kabayel. I mean, no one was really interested. But yeah, they're saying he's rejuvenated. He's with David Haye. He's now Derek War Chisora. They've got all the new hats and t-shirts. I still don't think he's going to be able to beat Dillian Whyte. I've heard that Dillian Whyte's been firing on all cylinders in the gym as well, and I'm expecting him to win. But like I say, I don't think it's an easy task to knock Derek Chisora out. I know that Joshua thinks that no one's knocking anyone out in this fight as well. I think he expects it to go points. And I can't really see Dillian Whyte stopping Chisora, but it will be interesting. Hopefully it will be something like the first fight, because it will make for great viewing. But for me, I think Dillian Whyte wins it. He's got the better boxing skill. He's got less miles on the clock, and he's fresher. So for me, I think he wins. But yeah, interesting fight nonetheless. And moving out to the final card to mention now, it's happening at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York, USA. Let's start with the undercard. We've got Efia Jagba, the heavyweight Olympian. He has a record of 7-0. He's the guy that, his opponent famously walked out of the ring when the first bell rang. It's him again. He gets in here with an opponent yet to be named. It's a 6-round contest, though. We also have Rancis Barthélemy, 26-1, former world champion. He's in a 10-rounder against Robert Frankel, who's 36-19 with 1 draw. We've also got Terrell Gausha, 20-1. That one loss came to Erislandy Lara for the world title. I remember having Terrell Gausha on the show. I think he's a former Olympian. He takes on Joey Hernandez, 27-4 with 1 draw. All the very best to Terrell Gausha. I think that's a 10-rounder there. I don't think Gausha's fought since the Erislandy Lara fight. Could be wrong. Dominic Breazeale, friend of the show, 19-1. He's in a 10-rounder against Carlos Negron, who's 20-1. Negron can punch, but that's about all he can do. I'm expecting Breazeale to look pretty good in this fight here. Also, moving up the bill once again, 2 fights left to mention. Let's start with the Jamal Charlo, the heavier of the 2 twins, 27-0. Puts his interim WBC World Middleweight title on the line against Matt Korobov. Ayaz, as you said earlier, it was supposed to be Willie Monroe Jr., and that's whatever happens there has happened there, and Matt Korobov steps in. He's wanted a big fight for a long time. He hasn't really been in a big fight since losing to Andy Lee, which is actually 4 years ago this month. Seems like a lot shorter time than that, actually. Can't believe it's been that long. Since that Andy Lee fight, he's had 4 fights in the meantime. All 4 of them have gone the distance. He's not really a big puncher, to be honest, Matt Korobov, and he steps in against, Charlo, that's looking absolutely fantastic. This is the Charlo that everyone says is the better of the 2, and he's certainly the bigger puncher. I'm expecting him to get the win simply because, he's been more active and he's fought better opposition lately, and Korobov has been very inactive. Like I say, 1 fight a year for the last 4 years. It's just not really good enough. And not only that, he hasn't even been in 12-round fights. The most rounds he's done, in all those fights, they've all gone the distance, and they were 8-rounders, 3 of them, and one of them, the most recent one, was a 6-rounder. That was actually March of this year. Aside from that, he hadn't fought since November 2016. That was the last time he went 8 rounds. So he's had 1 fight in 2 years, pretty much. It gets even worse the more you look at it. For me, it's a Jamal Charlo knockout. The listeners agree with that, Ayaz, and I'm guessing that you probably agree also.
Yeah, that's correct. I'm going to go by Jamal Charlo knockout.
And the main event here, I'm not quite sure it is the main event, but the way it's positioned, it looks to be. It's 31-0, Jamal Charlo, the little twin. He puts his WBC World Super Welterweight title on the line against Tony Harrison, friend of the show, 27-2. Obviously, Tony Harrison had a great fight against Jarrett Hurd for the vacant IBF World title when Hurd was trying to become champion, and he was winning the fight until he ran out of gas and ended up getting stopped late on. I think it was about the 8th round, something like that. It's a good fight. I think Tony Harrison's, he's a good boxer and he can bang himself. Jamal Charlo's not the brother with all the knockouts. I think he's got 15 knockouts from 31 wins. So when you think about that, you've got to also remember that when you're coming up, you fight journeyman and stuff like that. Most of his fights have gone the distance, so he's not a massive puncher, although Tony Harrison in his 2 losses, both times he's been stopped, so that kind of wouldn't look great. It's a tough fight, though. I wouldn't be surprised if it went the distance. I think I am going to go with Jamal Charlo to win by knockout, but I think it's going to be late on if he does get it. And the listeners are also agreeing with that. How do you see it, Ayaz?
I'm going to go by Jamal Charlo by knockout.
So we're all with both the Charlo twins to get knockouts. I'm going with points for everything else aside from that. So yeah, 3 big bills, all very interesting ones on Saturday night. It's going to be very, very hard to allocate your time here, there, and everywhere for that one. But I'm going to leave it on this, Ayaz, just before we end the preview part of the show. I'm going to put you on the spot here. You will be watching boxing on Saturday night. I know that for a fact. The options that you have in terms of the UK times is Warrington and Frampton, that card's pay-per-view, and also you've obviously got Whyte and Chisora too, that one's pay-per-view. Which one will you be watching live?
Most likely be watching the Chisora Dillian Whyte fight.
Oh man, I thought you were going to watch Warrington and Frampton. Don't you see that card being a better one?
I think just the Chisora Whyte rematch, that's what it is.
Okay, lucrative rematch, and also, like I say, or like we mentioned, Charlie Edwards fighting for a world title on that undercard. I will be in attendance at White Chisora, so as soon as I get home, I'm gonna have to get something going, because I need to catch up on the fights that I'd have missed. I don't want anyone in the venue to tell me what's going on at the other card, and then of course I think it's 2 a.m. or whatever, the other card starts. I'm not sure if it's going to be shown on UK TV, but I'll have to find it somewhere. But yeah, that's really it for the preview part of the show. There's been lots and lots to go over. I know. I hope it hasn't dragged on. You've seen part 1 with the reviewing and the first guest. It's now the end of the preview part of the show. Just before we wrap up part 2, the last thing to do is to welcome our second and final guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the former 2-time middleweight champion of the world. It is, of course, Mr. Hassan N'Dam. Hassan, welcome back on the show, my friend.
Yeah, how are you?
Everybody,
everyone. I'm very good. I'm very happy to come back to you.
Excellent, man. It's great to have you back on the show, Hassan. We last spoke 18 months ago. It was actually just before your first fight with Murata. Obviously, you went on to win the first fight by a split decision. You then had the rematch. Unfortunately, you lost there. Since then, Murata's defended his title against Rob Brandt, Hassan. And before the fight, I actually thought he would beat Brandt quite easily. But obviously, Brandt was able to beat him quite clearly on points. What did you make of that fight? Were you surprised?
Yeah, after the fight, it was a good plan for Rob Brandt to fight Murata like that, because Murata is a tough fighter, but we have to move. We will have to move to win Murata, because Murata is only come forward and have a good puncher to right hand. So I think Rob Brandt used the good technique, the good strategy to fight to beat him. Yeah,
it's true. And you yourself will be fighting Martin Murray this Saturday on the Frampton vs Warrington undercard. What do you know about Martin Murray as a fighter, Hassan?
Yeah, this is a good opportunity for me to come in the first plan, because I was stay 1 year without fight, because it's the decision that I taken to change all my staff, all my my manager, and so we're working hard because it's a long time. We work for a long time. So now I want to fight a top fighter to come back in the high level. So that's why before I was supposed to fight Eubank, and the fight was cancelled, and now I have the opportunity to fight Martin Murray Saturday. So I am very excited for this fight. I'm working hard, I don't say like that. I don't give up about the fight, the working. So I'm working hard to be in the high level. Let's go and let's give people the fight that they're waiting for.
And Hassan, like you say, you haven't fought. Come fight night, actually, it would have been 14 months to the day since your last fight. It's going to be the longest time that you've not boxed, the longest period of inactivity for you. Can that be a problem or not?
Sometimes people in sport say it's because I'm retired a long time, because I don't have a competition a long time. It's not matter for me. When you know that you are a great sport guys, like, a tennis guys like Djokovic, when you stay 4 years and don't play, and when you come back and he beat everybody, that's a good and the real professional sportsman. So I think that's not a problem for the real champion. So when you come back really and you're working hard, you don't lose nothing. So the only thing is I will take my time, because I'm working for 12 rounds. I will take my time for 1 to 3 rounds to take the sensation of the ring, because it's a long time, like you say. I don't fight, but I have a good sparring partner, I have a good training, I have a good training camp, so I'm ready for this fight.
And whenever a big fight is happening, we like to ask, a question to our listeners on the podcast. We asked our listeners, who is going to win this fight? Is Murray going to win? Is Hassan N'Dam going to win? And the listeners said Hassan N'Dam is going to win the fight. I'm sure you're happy about that. Our listeners know boxing.
I know people who know boxing know and give their opinion. But boxing is. I'm happy. I'm so happy to hear that, because it pushed my head and make me confident and more confident about things that I think before. Because I know that I have good experience matching Murray too. I'm more technical than him, but he more pushing for work. He have a heart. I have heart. So I think that it's going to be a exciting fight. And I know that people who answer to you about your question was the knowing of boxing. The million of people who know boxing know that that fight is going to be for me. So I'm happy to hear that.
And who do you think at the moment, Hassan, are the best fighters at middleweight? Because obviously Canelo looks like he's moved up. I'm not sure if it's permanent, but he's moved up for the moment. You've still got Golovkin, you've got Daniel Jacobs, you've got Charlo, Andrade, Saunders. Who do you think are the best, maybe the best three?
Well, I think today Golovkin said the best champion, the best middleweight champion for me. But we have a young guys who are coming like Charlo and Andrade, but there are a little bit positive and negative points in the boxing. But you have like the guys like Triple J who do best of all things he do is best. So for me, he's still the best middleweight champion.
And a fight that has a big possibility of happening in 2019 is Callum Smith against Gennady Golovkin. I know that you've been around the Gallagher gym. You've probably sparred Callum in the past. How do you believe that fight would play out?
I think maybe it can happen. That fight can happen, because now I think everybody wants to move to 168 because the opportunity. So now Canelo is 168. Golovkin want to go to 168 to fight Callum Smith. So I think that's maybe gonna be happen. So maybe why not? That's why I want to move to 168 to fight Eubanks too. So I think the opportunity gonna come to super middleweight.
And on Saturday, on the same night of boxing as you, one of your rivals, Billy Joe Saunders, is fighting on the card. Last time you were on this podcast, I remember you said that his boxing matches make you fall asleep sometimes. If you both win this fight, are you interested in fighting him at all in 2019, or is there someone you'd rather fight? Is he not really on your hit list? You tell me.
I saw Billy Joe Saunders yesterday, and he come to me to say hello to me. And he's a good guy, but he interests me when he have a WBO belt. Right now, he doesn't interest me no more, because I want to fight somebody because he have a belt. Today he's the WBC silver champion. Like in Martin Murray, so he interests me to fight him. But the Saunders is not interesting no more. Only if he has some belt for me.
Okay. And what is your prediction for this fight, Hassan? Do you see this fight going to points? You're both very tough guys, or do you see a stoppage between yourself and Murray?
Yeah. My prediction is I walk in for 12 rounds. I'm ready for 12 rounds, and I will answer to him with everything that he will giving to me. I don't want to plan to knock him out. My boxing is not a boxing to knock people out. When I go up in the ring, I want to use all my heart, all the pleasure. I want to enjoy. And I think make people a pleasure, make people enjoy. That's the only thing I want to do tomorrow, Saturday, please.
And the last two questions now, Hassan. Everyone that we interview in December, we like to ask what is on their Christmas wish list in terms of their boxing career. So I want to ask you, Hassan, what is on your wish list for, to happen with your career in 2019? What can happen?
After this fight, I want to be in the top of WBC and one fight the WBC champion of the world in 2019. That's my wishes, to be in the top and come back in the new belt again, because for me, WBC is the best belt ever.
Okay. You've already got the WBA and the WBO. It'll look nice in your house next to those two. And finally, Hassan, have you got any kind of closing message, any last message just for our listeners before we let you go?
I don't understand what you said.
I'm saying, do you have any final message for the listeners just before you go? Any message?
Yeah, only say to people that I'm here. I'm not coming back. I was here. I'm only walking in my corner. Don't want to disturb people. So continue to follow me. Continue to support and give me all your support for this fight for Saturday and for all the fight that I will do in 2019. And all the best for everyone. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everybody.
Very well said, Hassan. It's always a pleasure speaking with you, my friend. I wish you the best of luck on Saturday. Have a happy Christmas, have a happy New Year, and we'll speak sometime in 2019.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and this wraps up episode 166 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Ayaz Sumra has been Ayaz Sumra. A big thank you to our two guests on this week's show, the former heavyweight world title challenger Dominic Breazeale and the former two-time middleweight world champion Hassan N'Dam. I wish both men the very best of luck in their respective fights on Saturday. Two extremely cool guys. The Prediction League now currently stands at myself in the lead on 82 points. Ayaz and you, the listeners, are tied on 75 points, but remember there are 7 points up for grabs this weekend. There has been one or two bits of news that have surfaced during the recording of this show. Top Rank have now signed the light heavyweight world champion Alida Alvarez on a co-promotional deal. Obviously Alvarez will be rematching Kovalev on February 2nd. On the undercard of that, it's been announced that Teofimo Lopez, the high-flying prospect, will fight the former two-time world title challenger Diego Magdaleno, former opponent of Terry Flanagan. What a fight that will be. And also on that card, we will get to see Richard Comey fight for the vacant IBF lightweight world title against the Russian Isa Shanayev. And also on that card, Oscar Valdez defends his WBO world title against the undefeated Italian Carmine Tomason. On February 9th, we'll finally get to see the return of Gervonta Davies. He's back in action. He takes on Abner Mares. What a cracking fight that will be. And in other news, on the Pacquiao versus Broner undercard, Badu Jack will fight the undefeated Marcus Brown for the interim WBA World Light Heavyweight title, and Rashay Warren will also be on the undercard. He takes on the undefeated 14-0 Frenchman Nordin Ubali. That one is for the vacant WBC World Bantamweight title. But that's about it for the news. This will be the last time that you hear from us before Christmas comes, so I hope everybody has a wonderful Christmas with their family. We will be back next week with the Christmas special, so don't miss that one. Thank you all once again for listening, and we'll catch up with you next week.